All right, what's going on, guys? So this is one that I've owed you since October when I made my Living Dead retrospective video. I ranked all of the George Romero zombie movies that I covered in that video, but I said I wanted to do a tier list ranking of George Romero's entire filmography, and now we're finally here. Took me some time because I was doing other things and I had to find time to actually watch some of these movies. By the way, if you ever want to watch George Romero's filmography, most of these movies are on Tubi, and Tubi is totally free. I honestly gotta say, Tubi is like the unsung hero of the streaming service department, man. They have so many old school 80s, 70s horror movies on there that you can't find anywhere else. And if you watch it on your PC, at least, if you have an ad blocker, the ads don't even come up while you're watching it. So you can just watch the entire thing for free. A few of them are on Amazon, and you can pretty much find all of these movies streaming somewhere except for motherfucking Dawn of the Dead, because the rights issues are still messed up with that one. There's still no newer physical media over here in America. I know that the UK has some that are region accessible that I might have to order, but Dawn of the Dead is the only one that is still not as easily accessible to watch on physical media or streaming. It is on YouTube, by the way, but we want a high quality version, man. We want a Blu-ray version, a 4K version. Can we get Dawn of the Dead? Can they come to whatever kind of agreement they need to come to and re-release Dawn of the Dead? For God's sakes. Anyways, but George Romero had a few films in his filmography that I had not seen, so I wanted to make sure that I watched them, and now I am here to rank them all for you guys. A couple disclaimers here. First and foremost is, obviously, this is my own personal opinions and personal preferences. I am not ranking this on any kind of objectivity, if there ever could be one. These are just the movies that I like the best, is where they're gonna rank. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, I'm only doing his theatrically released movies, so I'm not including any short films or television. There is one film I did watch that's not on this list. It's called The Amusement Park. It was under an hour long, and it's this weird look at like elder abuse, essentially, is what the whole thing is about. And it's really sad, really depressing, but it hammers the point home. But it's not really a movie. I mean, it tells a short story, but it's more of a short film, so I didn't include that on here. And our categories are going to be up in the S tier spot, the masterpiece level. I'm calling it the Coming to Get You Barbara tier, because these films are so damn good, they're rising from the grave and coming to get you. The second tier, which would be our A tier, is My Cake, which is a reference from Creepshow, and I love cake. I don't understand people that don't. You know what I mean? I meet so many people, they're like, I don't really like cake. I'm just like, the fuck?
I got my cake.
Middle tier, the B tier. So these are films that are kind of the middle ground. They're films that are good, but not great. But they're films that also might have a lot of flaws, but they're not necessarily bad. They're just somewhere in the middle. So I'm calling this meteor shit.
Meteor shit.
Because when Stephen King said meteor shit in Creepshow, he was really excited about the prospect of what the meteor was going to be. And then later it didn't turn out to be so good. So again, in the middle. We got our C tier here with No More Room in Hell. To be honest, I just really wanted to include this quote and there was nowhere else to put it. And then the final tier, which would be our F tier. These are films that are just not good. They missed the mark. Romero had a bad day at the office. This is another one for the fire.
Okay, he's dead. Let's go get him. That's another one for the fire.
And with that all out of the way, let's start at the very beginning. We go in order of the filmography here, starting with his very first film, which is, of course, none other than Night of the Living Dead. The film that set the template for what zombie films would be, that almost every other zombie film that has ever been made takes example from. There's so many reasons I love Night of the Living Dead, just talking about the way that it looks, the way it's filmed, the atmosphere, that gritty, low-budget filmmaking style, but it also shows what you can do with nothing, and also how simple inspirations like Carnival of Souls or I Am Legend, you know, you see these creators that love other things and they mash them together and they create something brand new that once again becomes this symbol, this icon, this thing that hundreds, thousands of other people will then in turn take inspiration from. And with this movie, Romero basically started an entire genre of horror. Even in this film, even though we call them zombies now and they're recognized as zombies, they call them ghouls in the movie because zombie was a term more associated with voodoo. You know, it wasn't really the dead rising from the grave just yet, and it sort of became that over time. I love movies where characters are trapped in one location and they can't go anywhere and they're forced to communicate with one another, and that leads into another famous thing about this film that many other zombie films have copied, is that Romero was not shy about putting his social and political commentaries in his movies, and Night of the Living Dead showcases that humans can't come to any kind of agreement or consensus with one another, and we're too busy fighting each other that we just don't have a chance to come together to fight against the opposing, obstacles that are coming for us all. Ben is also one of the most badass characters of all time, and of course, even though Romero says that he didn't deliberately cast him because he was black, the idea of having a black lead character in this horror film in the 1960s, dealing with the type of social commentary that it deals with and leading to that tragic ending, well, whether Romero intended it or not, it definitely serves as a heavy political commentary. So, and also, you know, with Night of the Living Dead, I won't go this in depth with all the movies, but I just really want to talk about Night of the Living Dead, is that there's a feeling, there's a vibe to this movie that I just have never really felt replicated in any other movie. And, you know, a couple different movies give me that kind of feeling, but Night of the Living Dead is something that I always watch in the fall. You know, I always watch it in October around Halloween time. I always watch it when the leaves are falling. I always watch it at night. It literally is a movie that you have to watch in the middle of the night, you know? And there's an atmosphere that all of that together brings me that just Night of the Living Dead it is able to infect my soul in a way that a lot of other movies aren't. So, no question here for me. Night of the Living Dead is top tier, S tier. They're coming to get you, Barbara. It's not even close. Now, here I think is the most fun part of doing these tier lists, is going through the filmmaker's entire filmography and seeing how they bounce from movie to movie. So Romero is obviously mostly known for being a horror director, but early in his career, he tried to make different kinds of movies and not get typecasted as a horror director. In many cases, that does not work out for them, for horror directors. I mean, John Carpenter was able to do it, you know, and Sam Raimi was able to break out of horror, but Romero, he tried, and it just didn't quite work. The first one here is called There's Always Vanilla, and this is one of the movies that I'd never seen before until watching them to make this list. This is a 70s, I guess, I don't really want to straight up call it a sex comedy, but it's about relationships, and it's about a character that's kind of juggling with what he wants to do in life and potentially being a father. And, you know, there's a lot of strange humor going on here. And the title, There's Only Vanilla, kind of refers to the idea of, like, you know, there always is that other option. Like, there always is the ability to lead a normal life. Like, you don't always have to do something crazy, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with the message, but there's always vanilla. There's always the regular life that you can go back to. At least that's kind of what I got out of it. But after I watched it, you know, I researched it a little bit, and Romero, there's a lot of exposition given to you. There's a lot of characters sitting and talking to the camera as if they're being interviewed. And I saw that, I thought it was like a creative choice. And then I saw an interview with Romero, and he was saying, yeah, we pretty much did that because we didn't have the money to film everything that we wanted to. So we just had characters explain stuff that happened in the middle. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's a creative way to put in, you know, and I like that. I like that having lower budgets forces you sometimes to be more creative, you know? And so he tried to do something a little bit different. He tried to make a comedy. He tried to go the polar opposite route as Night of the Living Dead. I don't think it really worked too well, but I appreciate the attempt. I appreciate him trying. I don't think this movie is terrible. It's just not really my cup of tea. It's not really my type of movie. I appreciated it knowing it was George Romero making something when he was really young. And I can't call it trash. You know, I can't call it F tier. I can't say that it's like garbage. But it's going to be right up here. No more room in hell, because like, it's just not my thing. But, you know, I appreciated the attempt. Third movie here is Season of the Witch. And this is not Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And it's also not the Nicolas Cage movie. but I imagine someone out there must have watched all of these movies in a triple feature one night back to back, and I can't imagine how that would have ended up. You would think from the title that Season of the Witch is another horror movie, and it's not really. Actually, I believe the title was changed like 2 or 3 times before ultimately landing on Season of the Witch. It's not really a horror movie up until like the last 5 minutes, really. It's really about this woman kind of breaking free from how she feels trapped, and there is a coven of witches, but they're not like, they're just like regular women, like doing tarot cards and spells and shit, but then it gets weirder as time goes on. There's some nightmare sequences, but it's just not really like, I wouldn't feel right calling it a horror movie, you know, up until the very, very end, like the final scene. But other than that, it's just kind of another film that you could tell that he was sharpening his tool set of making. It feels very similar to There's Always Vanilla in the sense that, you know, it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I can kind of see the charm in it of his early career. So I'm going to put it in the same category, but I'm going to put it above Only Vanilla. Now we get to the damn good stuff here. All right, we got some good movies to talk about. First of all is The Crazies. So this is Romero's, you know, you could say in one respect that this is his full return to pure horror, but in another respect, it's kind of more of like a survival, like thriller movie, I guess, if you want to call it that. Actually, The Crazies kind of reminds me of early John Carpenter. It reminds me of like Assault on Precinct 13, something like that. It feels like that 70s gritty, you know, action style. It's not like a straight up action movie or anything, but there's a lot of gunfire, there's a lot of killing, there's a lot of panicked characters, you know, that sort of thing. Essentially, there's this virus, you know, this pandemic that unleashes in this small town, Evans City, Pennsylvania, which is real town. And the government or the powers that be go there to quarantine and contain the area because the virus supposedly makes people super like homicidal. But once again, it deals with heavy social commentary themes on people rising up against their oppressors and just the poor planning and poor execution of governmental figures coming into a small area, not really knowing how things work, not really knowing what to do, and abusing their power to the fullest degree, taking people out, you know, just shooting people down, and, you know, a small group of survivors kind of banding together to fight back against them. And it's an interesting movie. I love the way that it's filmed. I think this is the perfect decade for a movie like this to come out. It just has that pure, like, 70s exploitation style to it. I don't know how to describe it, but I think The Crazies was definitely Romero's return to form and when he began to hit his stride as a filmmaker because, yeah, from here on out, we got mostly good shit. So I'm going to put The Crazies. I can't quite put it in S tier masterpiece level because I try to reserve that tier for only the best of the best. But The Crazies is really good. So I'm going to put it up in my cake. Then we have a movie called Martin, which is crazy. This movie's nuts. This is a vampire movie that's not a vampire movie. We deal with our protagonist character here, Martin, who fully 100% committed believes that he is a vampire and he drains the blood of women violently any way that he has to and has all of these strange flashbacks or memories of like the early days because he's supposed to be like he says he's like 80 or 90 years old where really the, you know, the actor, the character looks like he's maybe in his mid to late 20s. So he fully believes that he's a vampire and he dresses up like a vampire. He knocks people out, takes their blood, and some of the shit that he does is just, the way that it's filmed is so damn creepy because once again, we're dealing with that like 70s gritty style, but and it feels like almost in, you know, too raw. Like it feels documentary style. Like it feels like, you know, Last House on the Left, Hills Have Eyes from the early Wes Craven era where it makes you very uncomfortable to watch him doing these things. And then there's also moments where you're like, well, maybe he is a vampire, you know? And like, at the end of the day, like, what does it mean to be a vampire? If he does all of the things a vampire does, I mean, what really is the difference between mythology and the real world. It's an interesting character study, and it's following a protagonist that is objectively horrible, but you still feel for him and sympathize with him at certain times, which is one of the best things that a filmmaker can do, is to take a character that's reprehensible and give you an emotional attachment to him. So Martin, for me, I am really debating between Coming to Get You, Barbara and My Cake. It's like right there. But just because I have an idea of the other films that are going to go up here, I'm going to put Martin up here because I think it deserves to be talked about more. And then we have what many people would arguably say is the greatest zombie movie ever made. And it's hard to argue against that with Dawn of the Dead. What can you say? What can I even say about this movie? I made an entire retrospective on the Dead series. And I know I talked to death about Night of the Living Dead earlier, but like, I feel like, what can I say about these movies? You have fantastic characters here. This is about a week or two or maybe a month into the zombie apocalypse. They find refuge in this mall. A lot of the movie is these characters coming together. It's interesting because Night of the Living Dead is so much about characters, the infighting, but Dawn of the Dead is when these polar opposite characters really kind of begin to trust each other, and through their organization and through their planning, they're able to take over this entire mall and make it their own. It has incredible special effects, especially for the time period. The opening sequence, the opening shootout in the apartment building might actually be my favorite scene in the movie, even though it's before they get to the mall, because it's just so brutal. Yeah, this film's fantastic. I mean, I don't think that there's any denying that Dawn of the Dead also deserves to be in the top tier. It's just, where do I put it? For me personally, and you guys know if you watch the retrospective video, Night of the Living Dead is my all-time favorite, George Romero movie just in general. So Dawn of the Dead is just going to be a very close second. So those would be my number 1 and number 2. But no matter how you flip-flop these two movies, I don't think you would be wrong. They're both masterpieces, some of the best zombie media ever created. This next one was a new one for me too. It's called Night Riders. So Romero once again steps out of the realm of horror and makes a, how do I put this? A bicycle gang that dresses up like Renaissance characters and forms a community and has regular jousting matches, exists within the hierarchy of having a king and having knights and having warriors, and they just kind of live together and just enjoy life until shit goes down. Yeah, they're all like medieval, Renaissance fair performers and stuff, but they live within this tight-knit community, and I really don't know quite what to say about this movie. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. And definitely must mean something very deeply to George Romero, but I was kind of thrown off, I guess, because I just wasn't expecting this kind of movie. Like, I was thrown off with this way more than I was thrown off with There's Only Vanilla. Like, I just didn't expect to see like a medieval Renaissance fair traveling group of people jousting each other on motorcycles. But like, the more that I explain it, the more badass it sounds. I think it has a really sad ending too, which I won't spoil, but I'm gonna put it in the middle, because I'm kind of in the middle on it. Like, I liked it, I enjoyed it, but I just was not expecting it. So it's going to go right in the middle. Then we have Creepshow. Creepshow is a movie I've loved for years. It's a horror anthology. It's, I think, 5 different short stories in one movie. So it's kind of like a Tales from the Crypt. It's a throwback. Like, deliberately, they reference, the Tales from the Crypt style comics from back in the day that would tell these horror stories. The beginning of the movie, the prologue, is the kid reading the horror comic book, and his dad, played by Tom Atkins, takes the book away from him, throws it in the trash. And then we go into the comic and see the stories that he was reading throughout it. The best one, obviously, being the box, the monster in the box. But I also really like the one with Ted Danson, where Leslie Nielsen, actually, in a very dramatic, more intimidating role, buries him up to his neck on the beach. Yeah, this movie's just a lot of fun. And what I like about this movie, too, is that it is fun. Like, it has fun with itself. It's not really trying to be scary. It's trying to be enjoyable. It's trying to be entertaining. It's trying to be fun. It's wacky. It makes a lot of references to comic books and paneling and things like that. Like, this is a movie that you could put it up there with like Army of Darkness or like, Trick or Treat or something. Like, it's just trying to have fun with itself. So for me, I've always loved Creepshow. I'm putting it up in my cake. And then we have what was originally the final Romero zombie film until the 2000s, which is Day of the Dead. And Day of the Dead is also a film that I love. Now, when I did my retrospective, I was actually a little bit shocked in the comments about how many people said they didn't like Day of the Dead. Now, I can totally see not liking it as much as Dawn or Night, but Day of the Dead is fucking great. Like, first of all, it has some of the best practical special effects of the entire 1980s. All right, I'm putting that up there. I'd say maybe only like John Carpenter's The Thing, or that might be the only one that has better practical special effects. Like, this movie is insane. I love Rhodes as the antagonist. This is further into the zombie apocalypse, several decades, and people are living underground. There's this team of scientists that are trying to come up, with maybe rehabilitating the zombies with Bub, and then you have the military characters that are just abusing their power to no end, which is the common theme in George Romero movies. I think everything that happens with Bub and trying to get him to learn and to train him and stuff, some people say that's when zombie films start to go downhill, where zombies start to get a little bit more intelligent, but the way that it's done in Day of the Dead is subtle enough that it works. And it's only Bub. It's only one zombie. It's not the horde, And yeah, I love it. I love Rhodes as the antagonist. I'm running this funny farm here, Frankenstein. Like, I don't know. Anyways, I'm putting this up in Masterpiece S tier. It's going to be my number 3. So that's me. I mean, obviously all 3 of those zombie movies are going to be up there. What do you expect out of me? You already saw me rank it in the retrospective video. Come on. And then we get a movie called Monkey Shines. Oh my God. I love Monkey Shines. If you guys have never seen Monkey Shines, by the way, this is one that was very difficult to stream. I had to rent this one off Amazon, and there's like no physical media of it. Of course, so along with Dawn of the Dead, there's actually another Romero movie that's almost impossible to find. But if you can find Monkey Shines, watch it. What's Monkey Shines about? It's about an evil monkey. Do you need more? All right, let's talk about this. Monkey Shines is about a guy that's very physically active, physically fit. In the beginning of the movie, he gets hit by a truck, gets paralyzed. All right, so he's paralyzed from the neck down, and his life is pretty much over, right? But he gets this helper monkey to do things for him, to grab things and move things and feed him, and like they're buddies. He makes a little friend out of this little monkey. It's great. It's charming. It's adorable. But the monkey is actually jacked up with this experimental substance that psychically links the monkey to the main character, and now all of the people that the main character wants vengeance on, the monkey goes out and starts killing them. And the monkey's only trying to help. The monkey is innocent here. He's like, all right, you don't like this person? I'm gonna go fuck him up. The monkey will literally travel to wherever he needs to go and just start killing people. And it's incredible. I love this movie. This movie is so much fun. Listen, I'm a simple man. You give me a killer monkey, I'm gonna love the movie. All right, so I'm gonna put this up in the top of my cake. I know. There's people gonna hate me. You're putting it over the crazies. It's not about objective quality. It's about how much I enjoy the movie. And I almost thought about putting it over Martin, but I can't. Monkey Shines. All right, so after Monkey Shines, we get to a movie called The Dark Half, which I think is also a Stephen King-based movie, because I literally just ranked this movie when I did my Stephen King tier list not too long ago. And The Dark Half is a movie that I think is okay. Essentially, this guy has like an alternate, not an alternate personality. Well, he has like an alter ego that writes different books under a different name. Obviously, it's a Stephen King property, so the main character has to be an author. And for most of the movie, it's sort of like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. Like, you think that he's committing murders under the guise of an alternate personality, but then other stuff is kind of revealed, and it becomes a little bit supernatural. Well, not a little bit. It becomes a lot supernatural. And I think that's where the movie loses me. I think I liked it more. I liked the mystery more, and I liked the reasons as to why I was building in my head why he was kind of switching back and forth between personalities. But after the more supernatural reveal at the end, and this is weird coming from me, because obviously my favorite Romero movies are zombie movies, obviously, supernatural, but in this movie, it just didn't work quite as well for me. So, The Dark Half, I'm going to put in, Yeah, no more room in hell. Yeah, it just, I don't know. There's something about this movie that just doesn't quite work for me. It's gonna go there. And the next one is Bruiser. So Bruiser was another one that I just watched recently that I'd never seen before. And it's odd that it looks like a horror movie. And the imagery of the main character looks like a horror movie. He's got this, white face mask thing happening, and he gets blood splattered all over it all the time. But it's really more of like a revenge movie. Like he has these fantasies of, these people that give him a hard time in life and how he wishes he could lash back out. And then once he wakes up and seems to have his face replaced with this weird white mask, it's almost like another persona takes over. It's not another persona like in the Dark Half, but it's like now he's free to kind of take his vengeance against the people in his wife that cheats on him and his boss and all of these people. It's more similar to a movie like Falling Down or something like that. It's not really a horror movie. There's murders in it and the main character wears a mask. So, that makes it look like a horror movie, but I would say it's definitely more of a revenge movie. And the final scene is like this big Halloween party where the Misfits play. That's pretty cool. Tom Atkins is in this too. It's okay. I'm going to put it up in meteor shit. And I think I might have liked it a little bit more than Knight Riders. So I'll put it there. It's in the middle. And then we get to Land of the Dead. So after nearly 2 decades since Day of the Dead, Romero finally returned to the world of zombies, and actually his 3 final movies are all zombie movies. After not making a zombie movie for 20 years, Land of the Dead is connected to the Night, Dawn, Day universe, and now we live in a world where it's completely overrun with zombies, but there's a few sanctuaries that have been built, thankfully, by Dennis Hopper.
Watch out, get out, quick!
And this is the one where he does take the concept of the zombies gaining more intelligence even further, where there is a horde that is heading towards the city, led by Big Daddy, is the name of the smartest zombie here. And they manage to even pick up weapons, pick up tools, and even at one point pick up a gun, which actually happened in Day of the Dead, but now there's an entire horde that is sort of learning about what they need to do to get to where they need to go. I like this movie a lot. You know what I mean? I don't think it's as good as his other ones, but I have a lot of fun with this movie. It is enjoyable to me. I think it's a good zombie film. And I think for me, it's going to be the top of the meteor shit. So top of the middle. Like it's not great, but it's also not terrible. It's perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable, perfectly enjoyable. It's literally right in the middle. And now we get to the final 2. So Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead are zombie movies, but they're not really in the continuity of the other ones. It kind of starts all over because Diary of the Dead starts at the very beginning, the outbreak of the zombie apocalypse, as it's just now happening. And the entire movie is in, the modern era when it came out, I think 2007. So there's, the internet and MySpace and all of that kind of stuff. So it's obviously not connected to the original, or it's a tangent universe, whatever you want to call it. But, Romero swung for the fences in this one in the sense that he made a found footage style movie. And it's not good. I ranted about this enough in my retrospective video, but essentially I can't stand the way this movie is filmed. And it doesn't even seem like he was really trying to make a found footage movie because all of the shots are like perfectly framed the way that they need to be. Every character is every single thing is caught on camera the way that it needs to be. There's a lot of CGI in this movie as opposed to practical effects, and the worst thing about this movie to me is the acting. Like the characters suck, and the acting in this movie is just terrible. Like it's just bad. The only redeeming scene in this movie to me is with the Amish guy that throws the dynamite. That's pretty funny. But other than that, I'm not a fan of this movie. To me, this is where Romero dropped the ball, and it's going to be in my bottom tier. This is another one for the fire. And then we get to Survival of the Dead, which unfortunately, rest in peace to the legend, turned out to be George Romero's final movie. It was not planned to be his final movie, but it ultimately ended up being that. Now, this takes place in the same universe as Diary of the Dead. There's a minor character that shows up for one scene in Diary that is the main character of this movie. and I think this movie is a bit better. This one takes place mostly all on an island with these rival families or this rival group of people that are deciding how they want to deal with the zombies, if they want to contain them in case there's a cure, or if they want to just kill them. There's a little bit more practical effects. There's still a lot of CGI, so don't get me, it's not like, you know, we're not going back to like Day of the Dead, but there's some practical effects in this movie. I thought it was okay. You know, it's filmed very much like a Western. There's a lot of wide shots. Most of the movie takes place outside. It's a step above Diary. For me, I'm going to put it in No More Room in Hell, but I'll put it at the top. I'll put it right about there. So there you guys go. There is George Romero's entire filmography ranked as in accordance with my personal opinions. So if you wanted to go with my top 10, it would be Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Martin, Monkey Shines, The Crazies, Creepshow, Land of the Dead, Bruiser, and Knight Rider. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate it. These videos are fun to do kind of in the meantime. So I have a lot of big projects that I'm working on. I am like 70% done with the Leprechaun retrospective that I want to get out by St. Patrick's Day. I got other retrospective videos that I want to make for this coming year. I also have longer projects that I want to do. Some are video game related. Some are sort of just kind of movie series videos that I want to do that aren't quite retrospectives. But anyway, the point is I have a lot of bigger projects that I'm working on, but they take a lot of time to make. So in the meantime, to try to at least, you know, sustain myself to the smallest degree, I try to get some videos out weekly for you guys. I try to release at least 2 or 3 videos weekly. So doing tier lists and doing top 10s and fun things like that, they are fun videos to make, but they also really help me out because I'm trying to work on bigger, more in-depth projects, and it's just like, those take months to do, so it's nice to be able to just put a video out to hopefully, you know, gain some traction in the meantime. So I appreciate everyone that watches these videos and enjoys them. And just a little behind the scenes, like I am a one-man show here. Everything you see on the channel, I do. So, you know, I don't have anybody helping me with editing or writing scripts or anything. And I you know, I can't afford to like hire anybody to do those things. So I wish I could get better, longer videos out for you guys more consistently, but I just literally don't have the time. Like I try so hard, you know, and I work on these videos, you know, every day I work on YouTube videos in some way, shape, or form. So I appreciate the support nonetheless. If you want to support on a deeper level, I do have a Patreon, as well as channel memberships you can join if you want to. All that stuff is linked down below. But the simplest way to help is just to like and comment on the video. And if you could do that, I would deeply appreciate it. But until then, I'll see you guys later. Also, if you like the tier list videos, I have a playlist of them, and I've done other directors now. I've done Wes Craven, John Carpenter, Sam Raimi, Tim Burton, and I've done other tier lists. Like I watched every single Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and I did that. And a lot of people were asking to do Jim Carrey movies, so I think that's going to be the next one. So I owed you guys the Romero one, so I got this one done, and we're going to work on Jim Carrey next. Will be the next tier list. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later.